Hey guys, what's going on? Bahroo here, and today I have another episode of my weapon parts guide. In this series, I take a look at the different parts that make up the guns in Borderlands 2, and in this episode, we will be taking a look at the SMGs. Now, as with all the other guns, most of them are made up of 5 different parts, and that is the stock, the grip, the barrel, the sight, and the accessory. So let's go ahead and go over our first part, which will be the grip. And now for our first grip, and this is the Hyperion Grip. Its positive effect is that it will increase your reload speed, however, it will also reduce the weapon damage as well as the magazine size of your SMG. Moving on with the next one, we have the Hyperion Grip. Now, as always, Hyperion has the worst parts, and this one will increase your accuracy, and however it will also reduce your weapon damage. However, if you put this on a Hyperion SMG, the kick is much less noticeable and is not nearly as bad to handle. Moving on with the next one, we have the dull grip. Now this one has the same effect in that it will increase your accuracy as well as reducing your damage, making the stats the same as the Hyperion. However, if you put this on a dull SMG, it will add +1 to the burst count. So if you are going for any sort of dull SMG, you always want to have dull parts on it for the extra burst. Moving on with the next one, we have the Bandit Grip. Now this one will increase your magazine size, however it will also reduce your reload speed and your accuracy. In terms of TDR SMGs, it's kind of hit or miss whether you want a Bandit or a TDR sight. If you're going for DPS, then you want a TDR, but if you want just a simple one hit for second winding, a Bandit Grip is preferable. Moving on to our final grip, we have our Hyperion Grip, and its only special effect is that it increases elemental effect chance. So on anything that isn't a slag weapon, it is kind of useless since dots really don't do that much. So overall, this may be considered one of the worst grips outside of the Hyperion, which reduces your damage. Anyway, now that we've gone over the grips, let's go ahead and go over the different barrels of the SMGs. So starting off with the barrels now, we have our first one, which is the Hyperion Barrel. This one will increase your elemental effect chance as well as its damage, and also increasing your accuracy with no negative effects. Moving on to the next barrel, we have the Hyperion Barrel, which is again the worst possible choice. This one will reduce your magazine size, reduce your damage, but will increase your accuracy. Even on a Hyperion SMG, this barrel is simply not worth it and recommend ignoring at every possible cost. Moving on with our next one, we have the dull barrel. Now this one, all it will do is reduce your recoil, so on any other SMG, I would not recommend using it. However, if you place this on a dull SMG, it will increase the burst fire count by 1. Moving on with our next one, we have the Bandit Barrel. This one will increase your weapon damage, however, as a side effect of being Bandit, it will also reduce your accuracy. However, it's not the worst barrel since the increase in damage does outweigh its mildly irrelevant accuracy loss. Moving on with our next one. And now we have the Hyperion Barrel. This one will increase your reload speed as well as your accuracy. However, as a downside, it will reduce your weapon damage, so I definitely only recommend this if you plan on using Hyperion reload spam set for accident. Anyway, moving on to our final and probably the best barrel for all the SMGs, we have the Tec Barrel. Now, outside of the Bandit Plasma Caster, this will make your SMG very powerful. It will sadly consume twice as much ammo, but it has massive damage increase as well as gaining splash damage, which will deal an additional 50% damage. And it always comes in an element, so you don't have to worry about non-elemental. Overall, this is the best possible thing you can get on an SMG, and will definitely increase the longevity of your SMG with this barrel on it. Anyway, now that we've gone over all of the different barrels, let's go ahead and take a look at stocks. Now, first up we have the dull stock. As with all the other dull stocks that have been in previous episodes, This one will give you a slight decrease in accuracy, but it will give you a massive recoil reduction increase. Also, if you put this on a dull SMG, it will increase the burst fire count by 1. Moving on with our next one, we have the best stock outside of the dull one for dull SMGs, and that is the Hyperion Stock. This one will increase your accuracy as well as your accuracy recovery, and it will also, if put on Hyperion SMGs, drastically reduce the kick on the first initial shot. Moving on with our next one, we have the Bandit Stock. It does nothing. Never use it. Next one. And for our next one, we have the TDR Stock. This one will give you a slight reduction in your recoil, but also a slight reduction in your accuracy as well. And moving on to our final stock, we have the Malawant Stock. This one will give you a slight increase in your accuracy with no other downside. So now that we have finished going over all of the different stocks, let's go ahead and take a look at the different accessories for the SMGs. And now for our first attachment, we have our bladed attachment. This is fairly straightforward, adds an additional 50% damage to your melee. And as I said in the last couple of episodes, make sure you have your annotations on, and in the top right will be an annotation telling you the prefix for all of the different guns for all of the different accessories. Anyway, moving on with our next one. And now for the damage accessory. This one can be found on the right in the SMG, and this will increase your damage by roughly 10% with no real side effects. Moving on with our next one. And now for our next accessory, we have stability. You can find this attachment on the stock of the SMG that you are currently using, and this one will just simply reduce the recoil that you experience. Doesn't have too much of an effect though on Hyperion SMGs. Moving on with our next one, we have the rate of fire increase accessory, and you can find this again on the right hand side of the SMG. This one will give you a slight boost to your rate of fire as well as increasing your projectile speed. This is most noticeable on the E-Tech SMGs, where their projectile speed can be a little bit slow because of the projectiles. So moving on with our next one, we have the reload speed accessory, and again this can be found on the stock of your submachine gun, and this one will increase your reload speed with no other downside. Most of the SMGs don't have any sort of downside for their accessories, unlike all of the other weapon types. And moving on to our final one. So now for our final SMG accessory, we have the worst possible one, the accuracy increase. The accuracy increase on this is so slight that you won't even be able to notice it, even on non-Hyperion SMGs. Just avoid this accessory altogether, and again you can find this on the right hand side. So now that we've finished going over pretty much everything, let's go over the part that doesn't actually increase any of the stats, which is the sight. So as I said before, the sight actually has no real benefit on the SMG and its stats, and it just has to do with personal preference and how much zoom you want to have for your SMG. So yeah, let's go ahead and go over each of the different sights. I'm just going to zoom in with each one. In the top left, you'll see an annotation for which manufacturer makes this sight. So let's just go ahead and go through them. So there you guys have it. That is all of the different SMG parts in Borderlands 2. I hope you found this guide helpful. If you do, be sure to leave a like on it. Let me know that you are enjoying this series. In the next one, it is very important. It'll probably be a little bit because I have to kind of go in depth with each part, and this is going to go over the rocket launchers. The reason this is important is because the rocket launchers, it's not as simple as all Malawan, all Tedior, etc. You have to pick and choose the parts you want based on what each of them does. It's not just a simple of trying to find an all X type manufacturer launcher. But anyway guys, as I said, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video, and the next episode will be rocket launchers. See you later.